So it's no secret, it's been very difficult to try and find topics for this YouTube channel in the summer. We were promised trades. We were told that there would be moves and big things to talk about, but nope. It's just Mason McTavish talk over and over and over again. All the teams got cap space, they re-signed the guys that they had, and us fans are left here wondering what the hell else is going to happen. So instead of diving into what isn't, let's talk about what could have been, and take a blast to the past 1 year ago into this, the rejected Kent Hughes trade for Trevor Zegras. Last year, we made this video commentary talking about a scoop that was posted about on HabsSolomontFan.com by Marco Normandin, talking about how the Canadiens had a trade in place to acquire Trevor Zegras. What happened since then? What were the details of that trade? And how did things turn out in retrospect? These are all going to be questions we'll try to answer right here in this video, because when you think about the what could have beens versus the what actually happened, it gets really interesting to dive into. So, of course, we all recognize the asset that was moved in this deal. Trevor Zegras is a Philadelphia Flyer right now. He was sent over to Philly from Anaheim earlier this year after posting up 32 points in 57 games. Zegras, plain and simple, just does not play the style of game that Pat Verbeek and the Ducks covet. You think about the big guys, you think about the tough guys, you think about the guys that play a hard-nosed style. McTavish, Leo Carlsson, Isaac Lundestrom. You've got Roger McQueen and Cutter Gauthier, Chris Kreider. Okay, we can go on and on and on and on, but still, this is a really particular style that Trevor Zegras does not play. And as a result, when you think about the way that this guy is not really progressing and he's not really excelling in that type of system, it was very obvious as to why he would inevitably get moved. Now he's in Philadelphia, a trade and a new situation for him, which I actually don't think is a good fit, because Rick Tocchet going out there and coaching Zegras, oh boy, be my guest to try to make that thing work. But Zegras with Mishkov and Drysdale, that actually does seem pretty good. I just really question how Rick Tocchet is going to be able to coach these guys. However, the trade which saw Zegras get sent over to the Philadelphia Flyers was not really that big, and that's, I think, the biggest thing that we have to remember about Zegras and the trade that was. He was traded for Ryan Poehling, a second, and a fourth. That's it. Not the biggest, most blockbuster type of deal, but if we take a look at this rejected Montreal trade from a year ago, things actually look like they could have been better for Anaheim. This article will be linked in the description. It's literally from last August. Here is what Marco Normandin posted about. At the start of the first round of the NHL Draft in Vegas in late June, the Canadiens and the Ducks agreed on the basics of a trade that would have sent Zegras to Montreal along with one of their second-round picks. In return, the Canadiens would have given up Logan Mailloux as well as their later first-round pick, 21st overall, in 2024. However, I am told that it was the Canadiens and Kent Hughes who eventually made the decision to not complete the trade, and they announced this to Anaheim during the first round. So, this is the trade that should have been, had Kent Hughes actually gone along with it. It would have been Trevor Zegras and a second for Logan Mailloux and the 21st overall pick. Thinking about it now, it's like, if the Anaheim Ducks would have been able to get Logan Mailloux and a first for Trevor Zegras, that would have been a lot better than what they actually got for the guy, in Poehling a second and a fourth. No disrespect to Ryan Poehling, of course, but Mailloux and a first, I think, is a lot more valuable there. Sure, Zegras would have had to get moved along with a second-round pick, so maybe it's a little more equal, but still, this is the trade that almost went down, up until Kent Hughes said at the last minute, "Sorry, Anaheim, we don't want to make it happen." Why is that? Well, firstly, The Montreal Canadiens still had a lot to like out of Logan Mailloux, who is now a St. Louis Blue, who was traded over to there for Zachary Bolduc. And also, you have the fact that Montreal, they ended up drafting Michael Hage with that pick that they would have sent Anaheim if this Trevor Zegras trade went down. When you think about how Logan Mailloux was traded for Zach Bolduc and how Michael Hage is now in the mix for the Canadiens prospect system as well, you can really think about this trade, Zegras to Montreal, as the following. Would you have traded Zach Bolduc and Michael Hage for Trevor Zegras and a second-round pick? Honestly, I'd think not. Michael Hage is looking so good as an NHL prospect. This guy has the shadow of Jack Eichel in the way that he moves, in the way that he comes up the ice, how he pitter-patters lefts, rights with the skates and the puck over there on his stick. The guy had 34 points in 33 games as a freshman for the Wolverines. He's a point-per-game guy. Such a strong hockey player, and somebody that I think has that potential to be a long-term second-line center. And you also have Zach Bolduc. Now, I get it. A year ago, you might not have been even considering Zach Bolduc as a valuable piece, considering the fact that he was coming out of a Springfield Thunderbird stint where he was at half a point a game. Not really too impressive, honestly speaking. He was very productive in the QMJHL, though, the year beforehand, which is great, but then again, it's the QMJHL, so you always have to take Q production with a grain of salt, especially for guys that are overagers. But Zach Bolduc just had himself a season where he had 19 goals and 36 points as a rookie for St. Louis. He wasn't even given the most ice time on the team. He had 11-minute games, 10-minute games, some 15-minute games in there, but he wasn't a super important part of this team. Now, he became a lot more valuable as the season went on and he started scoring more goals, but you can say that right now, Zach Bolduc has a lot more momentum and promise than what Trevor Zegras has right now going for him. Zegras had 12 goals and 20 assists for 32 points. Zach Bolduc had 19 goals and 17 assists for 36 points. Bolduc had more goals and more points, although Zegras did have a much lower amount of games played. Zegras also, of course, has a lot more experience, so you could make the argument that Zegras, just by virtue of expertise, is a more valuable player in the NHL right now. But Zach Bolduc is no slouch either. So when you think about it like that, all right, Michael Hage, a potential second-line center long-term, and Zach Bolduc, if the Canadiens traded these two guys away for Trevor Zegras and a second-round pick, how do you think that would have gone down? I absolutely think the Canadiens would be losing out on that. So, looking at things in retrospect, 1 year after it's been reported, the Habs had a trade in place for Trevor Zegras that they ultimately walked away from. This is becoming a very, very good decision by Kent Hughes. Not to make the trade, but to avoid the trade, and to say no, and to tell Pat Verbeek and the Ducks, sorry, we don't want to trade away Logan Mailloux and our 21st overall pick for Zegras in a second. They held on to Mailloux, grabbed themselves a really good young scorer in Bolduc, used the draft pick for Michael Hage, and now Trevor Zegras got sent over to Philadelphia for a package that's admittedly a lot lesser than Mailloux and a first. Ryan Poehling, a second and a fourth, man. I get it, there would have been a little bit of a different evaluation because this trade would have seen Zegras and a second go over to Montreal, but still, this is all Trevor Zegras' opportunity to gain. Right? This is a situation where the guy had lower value, the guy didn't really have a place in Anaheim, he got sent over because he needed to get traded, and now he's with his best friend Jamie Drysdale and Matvei Michkov. Again, talk to me later when Rick Tocchet goes out there and coaches these guys' skill out of their games, but for now, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about this rejected Zegras to Montreal trade 1 year after it went down? Would you have traded Bolduc and Michael Hage for Trevor Zegras and a second-round pick? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.